Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog. When Sue and I moved back to Doncaster, then it was probably 6 years ago now, 5 or 6. Anyway, when we moved back, it was during the COVID lockdown period. So obviously we couldn't go to church physically because churches were closed at that time, as many public buildings were. So we, for a time, used to watch our services online. But then eventually and gradually churches opened up again, and we thought we need to find a local church that we're going to fit in, we feel part of, we can serve, use our gifts in different ways, become part of a local fellowship. That's really, really important if at all possible. The writer to the Hebrews says, do not give up the habit of meeting together. It's so important for the Christian to meet with others if at all possible. Anyway, we tried a few churches and some weren't all that friendly, some we thought it's okay, but didn't really feel that was where God was leading us until we came to one particular church called the Church of the Good Shepherd, not too far from where we lived at that time, and we were made very, very welcome, and the vicar Tom came to see us and invited us just to get to know the church and the people before asking if we want to get involved in a more practical way. And we've made that church our home for the past 5 years or so, and we've grown to love the people, and it's been remarkable what's happened in the church during that period. I would say that when we joined, there may be about 30 people. Now, often on a Sunday morning, if you arrive late, you can't get a seat until the children go out to their groups. So we've seen tremendous growth, lots of young families. We've seen people coming to faith. We've seen lots of initiatives in the community, work in schools. Such a lot has happened, mission events. And it's been really wonderful to be part of that church family. And when Tom, our vicar, came, he was initially on a 5-year contract, and his contract runs out at the end of this month, in fact just a few days. But the bishop who's going to make the decision about whether to renew his contract delayed it until it wasn't until the 25th of April, so only a few weeks before Tom's contract ran out, that despite the pleas of our church congregation, our church family to the bishop, he said he's not going to renew Tom's contract. So, the church family are desperately sad, desperately hurting, confused, don't understand, doesn't make any sense to us. And obviously Tom and his wife, Claire, and their 2 children, they've been left with a dilemma that they've been given such short notice. And what does the future hold for them? What about their children? And, there's been a lot of heartache, a lot of people wondering about the future. Do they stay within the church? Because the bishop has not given any promise of a replacement for Tom. It's not as if Tom's going and we'll get somebody else. No, that's not been promised at all. So it's hard, very, very hard to understand. And despite all our prayers, all our support, people in the community have written to the bishop and said what a great job Tom has been doing and how they want him to stay, but all that has fallen on completely deaf ears. So how do we respond to that? How do we respond when things happen that are so difficult to understand, when there's so much hurt and so much confusion, so much anxiety, I suppose? How do you respond, not only in our situation as a church and individuals? There's many who've come to faith recently, and a lot of that's to do with the nurture, support, the teaching that Tom's given. What's going to happen when he's not around any longer? Who's going to lead the church? Who's going to teach the church? Who's going to encourage us and strengthen us? And so many questions. So how do you deal with that? Last night we had a prayer gathering at church. We have a monthly prayer gathering, and some saying, Lord, we don't understand. This church means so much to me. Some have come recently and their hope and their faith has been renewed and recharged. And now this is happening. We don't understand God. And I'm one of those that doesn't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. I wrote to the bishop myself, but to no avail. So this Sunday coming is Tom's last service at our church. It's going to be very emotional, very difficult, but a time of rejoicing for all that's happened in the past 5 years. And when we prayed together last night as a church, one of the verses that came to me is a very, very well-known one. It's where Paul is writing to the Christians in Rome who are going themselves through a terrible time of suffering. And he says this, "For we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, those who are called according to his purpose." So God works all things for good. Even the bad things, even the things we don't understand, even the things that cause us hurt and pain and distress. I can't work out how God is going to work this for good. But I believe that God is faithful. So when we encounter those circumstances that we just can't fathom, why has God allowed this? Why is this? Why am I experiencing this? Why am I living through this time of hardship, distress? I can't understand. We need to keep hold of that promise of God. I will work all things for good for those who love me, according to my purpose. So as a church, and for Tom and his family, we're holding on to that promise. So we can't see how that's going to work out. We can't see the future. But we believe that God is faithful. And I hope that when you go through those times of trial, as we all do, whatever that circumstance may be, you'll hang on to that truth, that God works all things for good. He can do the things that we can never even imagine. So hang on to that truth. God works all things for good to those that love him. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.